Fender announces a revolution in guitar amplifiers, the Cyber-Twin. Not a modeling amp, but the flagship of a whole new category. In recent years, the technology called modeling has resulted in products that emulate certain aspects of vintage amps from Fender and others. But beginning a half-century ago, when Leo Fender introduced a solid-body electric guitar into a world of hollow archtops, Fender has always been about finding a new way, a better way, innovation, not emulation. In keeping with their tradition of leading rather than following, Fender chose not to jump on the modeling bandwagon, and in fact, the new Cyber-Twin is not a modeling amplifier. It's the first product in a new category of amplifiers capable of cybernetic amp design. What's different about it? Well, first of all, the Cyber-Twin doesn't merely sound like a great amp. It is a great amp, with tubes, capacitors, resistors, the complex tone of analog drive circuits, alongside some high-tech digital control and effect circuits. The Cyber-Twin's virtual circuit board can actually reconfigure its signal path in a way that other amps simply cannot match. The result? More than just a snapshot. You get the experience of playing a classic vintage amp or a custom high-tech amp with a sound that remains rich and complex even at different settings, and with the feel and dynamic response of the original. Take a look. The left side of the front panel looks like a lot of other amps. You can unpack a brand new Cyber-Twin and take it right to a gig or a recording session. Just turn it on, plug in your guitar, and start playing. To make an adjustment, do it the way you always do. Turn a knob. You don't have to step through a bank of buttons or programs or presets. You don't need an owner's manual. You already know what happens when you back off the gain or turn up the mid-range or kick in the reverb. The Cyber-Twin is familiar. And now, join us for a test drive of the most exciting new amplifier in years and a look at the story behind the remarkable Cyber-Twin from Fender. Richie, it's great to see you.
Yeah, same here, buddy. It's great to see you.
I've been looking forward to this.
Yeah.
Fender's been building amplifiers for more than half a century.
Yeah, no question.
They're highly regarded. The recent amps are highly regarded, the classic amps, the vintage amps. So why this amp?
In the last couple of years, we've seen a lot of things, modeling amps. We've seen a lot of amps that are really, maybe some of them are nothing more than power amps with effects devices put on them. The Cyber-Twin is a whole new way of looking at it. And in the same way that when Leo went off and saw that archtop guitar and said, hold on a minute, our gang got together and we all just said, there's something here. With the versatility, the ability to have all these different sounds and stuff, it was pretty exciting. They were also very one-dimensional. So early on what we decided is we had to make not a modeling amp, but really an automated, multifaceted amplifier.
You said a moment ago one-dimensional as being a problem with some of these. What do you mean by that?
They would have a patch, they'll call it something basement, okay? And that moment in time where you have, let's say, a basement with a guitar in a particular fashion, in a particular moment, in a certain operating parameter, it was a pretty good copy of that. But if you wanted to go to the next step, you wanted to say, well, what if I took my basement, like my basement, and turned it up, or turned it down, or I wanted it brighter, I wanted it darker, all the things that the living, breathing amplifier would do for you, these very organic, attributes that are really part and parcel of playing an instrument. As you know, I mean, I'm the guy, I mean, I love guitars, no mistake about it, but
of all people.
Let's face it, this, it's a lot of fun, but without an amp, the electric guitar is not really finished yet. Rather than take these things and try and fabricate the net effect, what we did was we actually took the building blocks that you, or in your amp collection, take the ones that we've assembled, and create a very natural, organic signal path.
Now, you went on a quest for tone. You went to see our friend Alan up in New York City.
Yeah, the Jerk Lounge,
now, was that part of this project?
It was, actually.
In designing the Cyber-Twin, you went to sample Tell me about this collection.
Yeah, it was very cool.
I've seen it, and I want to know how those amps wound up in here and how that process worked.
Very good. Well, actually, we went twice. So the first time we went, we're listening to them as musicians. We're documenting this on a DAT tape. We're documenting it on a video. And we're also, we would play the amps, play them with a number of guitars, single coil pickups, double coil pickups, 12 strings, just like whatever, and also doing the, for lack of a better term, the thing that was maybe happening, playing a Scotty Moore thing, playing a R&B thing, whatever.
It would be appropriate to that.
We'd take the things apart, put them out, and we'd sweep them with an AP machine and a number of other parameters just to kind of see not just the frequency response, so that was something, the power output, frequency response, the damping factors, all these physical attributes.
So you can precisely measure all these things.
That's right. You can precisely measure them, but
yeah, there's a magic there.
There's a magic there. It doesn't. The measurements don't tell all. Listen to it again.
Yeah.
And then look at the thing, and very quickly we would actually say, like, by the time we got to the narrow panels, we would play it and go, okay, we would like draw, our impressions of what we would see.
Yeah, it must have been a great learning experience.
Yeah, and it really did. It gave us a whole new insight into like where tone comes from. What is it? What's it about? Compression, the attack times, decay times, all these things. How quickly the onset of compression. Things, really subtle things like, does the amp drive the speakers forward or does the amp drive the speakers back?
So you were analyzing all of these amps like to that degree with that kind of precision, like speaker movement and so on.
Always. Yeah. From the very beginning, the idea was to reconstruct them not as artifacts, but to actually reconstruct them physically in the hopes, as yet unproven, in the hopes of saying that if we have all these building blocks, it's going to live and breathe. It's going to live and breathe and become.
It's alive.
It's alive.
And it's going to behave. It's going to behave in the way that you would expect it to, not just sort of like we froze it and here's a picture of it.
That's right. When we got this thing, and early on we got the first working prototypes, and it was like, it was rough to be sure. It was hissing and cracking, but it was there.
Yeah.
I'll never forget, we were at Richard McDonald's house, and we had a Super Reverb, and we had our setup of the Super Reverb, the black-face tone stack, and the Fender reverb, placed in the right place, and all that stuff. And we listened to it. We're A-Bing it, and we listened to the Super. It sounded good, And someone in the group said, well, but this is a Super Reverb, the real one, quote unquote. Let's turn it up and see what happens, because again, we're not talking about the snapshots. The whole idea was to take this way beyond that. Okay, we got it to sound like a Super Reverb that was doing this at this particular moment in time. So let's turn the Super Reverb on 10 and turn the Cyber-Twin on 10 and see what happens.
If we change it, is it going to change the way the Super would?
Yeah, and man, it was like the ultimate eureka moment. We needed a cast of characters there. So we got Jimmy Vivino from Late Night, who's a great guitar player.
And who has all kinds of amps, I understand.
Yes.
Like some of the originals that you're talking about.
Some of the originals and a lot of the new stuff. I mean, think of what his job is. I mean, his job is to do everything at any time, be very versatile, fantastic musician. Good friend of mine, Bob Chakowski, who's a sound engineer, has worked with REM, Aerosmith. He's heard more stuff than anybody's ever heard. And knows how to record it and knows, again, the essence of it. We got this whole gang there. And with guitars in their hands, because obviously it's not just about listening, it's about playing. Had them facing the other direction and just had an A-B box and, shuffled the cards.
Oh, no
said,
kidding.
Here, play.
So you had like a 53 Pro and a Tweed Deluxe and a Bandmaster. And
some English stuff.
And you were just going back and forth.
All those, all the stuff, all the cool stuff.
And
they bought it. We were absolutely delighted. We went so far beyond what we had gone in there with. Okay, versatility makes up for a lot. And in actual fact, I mean, it's one man's opinion. It's like there's no question that the whole modeling thing has taken hold because of the versatility.
Which is great.
People, you want a lot of sounds. But again, when we went in there, we said, it's like, fair enough. We understand the versatility, but what if it could also sound good? We literally went in there and created both in the virtual and the real sense. In other words, there's tubes in here, there are capacitors, there are all those analog components that make up amps, and then there are virtual versions thereof. But the building blocks, the fundamental DNA that make up these amplifiers, I call them circuit blocks, okay?
All right.
I mean, there's 12AX7 tubes, there's tone stacks.
You mentioned a tone stack. What is that? Is that the tone controls and
Well,
how they work? Or?
It's how they work. It's what's behind the knobs. It's like the arrangement of the different capacitors and resistors to create a certain timbre within the amplifier. Let's say you wanted to go in. You go to the amp, right? And there's the name. Tone stack.
Okay.
Modern.
All right.
What would it sound like with a tweed? Well, little. Small.
Yeah.
Because that's the nature of it.
Right.
Right? So you got modern, British. Yeah, not bad. That's all. Let's see what, you know. Blackface. These are different tone stacks that are all still in the same place now. Okay.
Okay, right.
But I'm playing around
in
and
the
taking
same
that.
order in the signal chain.
That's right, as they were in the original program.
Okay.
Let's move it in front and see what happens.
So it's after the distortion now.
Right.
Okay.
Right now it's
the tone
post.
stack.
It's kind of tough, maybe, you know. It's like put it before.
Oh, it's really different.
It's exact same tone. It's exactly the same.
Good, let's do that again.
Yeah, exactly. This is the point.
Yeah.
This is what we're talking about being organic.
Really
this is like
Could you play a little bit of each again?
Yeah, why not?
Here's
I
the
play.
post.
And we've done nothing except take that tone
Except
stack.
go
we
like
haven't,
this.
We haven't changed the gain. We haven't changed the tone controls. We've just taken that part, as you say, and just bounced it back and forth.
You know, it occurs to me that this amp is a great teacher, just because simply by learning that fact right there and all these others, you kind of learn like where these amps came from and how they do what they do.
Right. Drive circuitry. We have any number of things we can.
Now, what does that mean exactly? The drive circuitry.
The drive circuitry is the way that the tubes are configured. Whether it's maybe it's solid state drive, maybe it's tube drive. To what extent the tube's being driven is.
What are the choices that you have?
Well, yeah,
here?
I mean, there's a myriad of choices here. I mean, we can go start at the beginning. We'll start at tweed.
All right.
Tweed tube 1 is a very dry, not very drivey kind of tweed sound.
Yeah, I'll put it on
tweed 2. Picks up a little heft.
Okay. Let's try that. Try it a little more each time.
Right, and that's your like with your 59 bassman would be there. It's just really kind of like
still in that same.
You know what I mean?
All right. Okay, hot rod. Now this is Fender hot rod?
Fender hot rod, modern tube kind of distortion. Okay, so because of the nature of it, I'm going to bring that up a little bit.
Crank up the mid.
A little more modern, a little more high-end, a little less mids, a little more. I actually like that. That sounds pretty good.
Sounds good, right? Okay, 2. Okay.
Brightens it up a little bit, drives it a little harder.
Number 3. Let's see what we've got here.
Okay, HMB. This is
HMB.
the modern
Her
bassman.
Majesty's
Her Majesty's bassman, exactly. Let me bring this down again.
Okay. So the same technology where you're taking the building blocks to effectively recreate a Bandmaster or a Tremolux or amps by other manufacturers, whatever the case may be. You can also go in and start from scratch.
Absolutely.
Is that right?
Yeah, what we could do is, well,
let's do one of those.
Well, we'll start with this. This is an interesting one. It's not a Fender, dual Richter,
All right.
friend of ours from the wine country. I mean, a nice, great, fat tone.
Huge.
I mean,
If you want to get a clean sound for a Fender, a Strat maybe?
Well, you know what?
I'm going to try one.
I'll change guitars here for a second.
All right.
Some single coils going.
Okay.
Happen to have one right here. Imagine that.
What do you know?
Exactly. Okay, well, where we started out, we're at the Vibra King.
Okay.
And as you can see, it's a modern tone stack, pre-distortion.
Pre-distortion.
Right?
Okay.
And let's dig in and see, because
All right.
again, the Vibra King is it's a big amp. It's got a nice kind of rippy tone. You know, really very a lot of bassman, a lot of bandmaster in there. You know,
Yeah.
but let's say you want it clean, 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 right?
Okay.
So you go in, Vibra King, tone stack is modern. I don't know. Why don't you bounce around on this?
All right, let's see what else we got here. The tweed.
I like that, actually.
Tweed sounds good. Black bass. I still like the tweed.
Okay, let's stick with that.
That sounds great. Let's stick
what
with
the
it.
heck? What, you know?
All right.
Pre-distortion.
All right, let's try both ways.
Yes, this suits this, you know, yeah, because again, we're getting to that classic Fender thing. So
Right.
the pre-distortion, it's amazing how it all works out, isn't it?
Right. You're sort of coming back to like a really good idea in the first place.
Exactly. Well, you know, you would say, you really, in its own way, it's like a little lab experiment.
The Cyber-Twin makes it easy for you to actually select the basic circuit design, the tone stack, the effects, all of them with several adjustable parameters. So go ahead. Take the drive circuit from a 1950s Fender combo, the tone controls from a 1970s British stack. Add a few studio effects like a rotary sound or a virtual analog tape delay, or any of several choruses or tremolos. Then you can actually arrange and rearrange the sequence of components in the signal path. On many amps, for example, the tone stack comes after the drive stage. But if you like the sound with the tone stack before the drive stage, go ahead and design it that way. It's easy. With the Cyber-Twin, you've got your own custom shop. As one person put it, if a conventional modeling amp gives you a coloring book of fixed drawings that you can fill in, the Cyber-Twin gives you a blank canvas and all the brushes and a rainbow of paints. Shane Nicholas is the marketing manager for Fender Amplifiers, and he's going to walk us through the Cyber-Twin. So Shane, let's crank it up.
All right, turning on the Cyber-Twin. Now when you first turn the Cyber-Twin on, when you first take it out of the box, you're going to be greeted with a demo mode, which is going to be a 6-minute kind of tour through some of the sounds and features that the Cyber-Twin has. For the purpose of this video, we're going to leave the demo mode off.
Okay.
First thing that happens is you see in your window here, Stadium Rock. That's one of the preset sounds in the Cyber-Twin. This is kind of like a sound we'd say it plays itself. So it's got a big stereo panning delay thing going on. It's really beautiful. Somebody who even doesn't really know how to play that much, they can sound like $1 million on this.
Okay.
Now, lest you think that the Cyber-Twin is all about digital effects, the second sound we're going to show you, which you can get by this little quick access button number 2,
All right.
is called High Voltage. This is just a straight, raw, British stack kind of sound with no effects on it at all.
So it's a British stack that's really cranked. I mean,
Exactly.
You said it that way.
And it's very important that people realize that the Cyber-Twin is not an effects box with speakers attached. This is a real amplifier, and I think that sound is an example of that.
Good. How about number 3?
Okay, again, going with our real amplifier theme, sound number 3 is, of course, a twin reverb.
All right.
And everybody's going to want us to have a twin reverb sound in there, easy to get to. There's a little bit of tremolo on there because tremolo is part of a twin reverb. We supply you with a 1-button foot switch. You turn your tremolo off.
Okay, still got some reverb in there.
Right.
Okay.
And in Fender amps, we consider the reverb part of the amp. So
not like an add-on.
Exactly.
Effect. All right. Okay.
And then preset number 4 here on the quick access button number 4. It's called Morning Light, which is a real lush stereo chorus sound.
Okay. Now these are the presets that the amp comes with. So if I get one of these, take it out of the box, this is what I'm going to get from pushing these 4 buttons right here, the quick access buttons. Can I also get to those with a foot switch?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We
Same
supply
4 sounds?
Yeah, we supply you with a 4-button foot switch that lets you store You don't have to use the 4 that I just showed you. Any sounds that you want can be stored in those 4 positions and then access
So you can
them
pick
from
your own.
Right, and it's really easy to do that. Like say I'm a metal guy and I don't like that twin reverb sound and I wouldn't use it.
All right.
If I'm that person, I would maybe find another sound that I like.
Okay.
Let's pick a really nasty stack. Okay, if that's what I like. It's just like in an old car radio, you're going to store the preset. So I just hold down that button number 3, and you'll see the LED after a couple seconds turns on. Now that sound is stored in preset or quick access button number 3. So I had my stadium rock, my high voltage, and there's my heavy metal stack.
Now when you're going from one preset to the other, there are a couple of things that are going on that don't look like other amplifiers. One of the obvious ones is the knobs seem to be turning themselves from one setting to another. What's that all about?
We've given it motorized knobs for 2 different reasons. One, that the digital host part of the amp can understand that if I've, say, turned a reverb knob up, the digital part of the amp is recognizing that, and it makes the appropriate change. That could be stored later. If I want my reverb on 10, the digital part of the amp can remember that, even though it's an analog button over here. The second reason why motorized knobs are cool is that if I go to a different sound and they change, they're showing me what this part of the amp is set to. So when I just made that change and say my presence knob went to 9, that's what you're actually hearing.
Now it looks like it takes a couple seconds for all the knobs to come around to their new location.
That's true. Don't let that worry you. The motors are very kind of, they take a little bit of time to catch up. When I make a change, it's a split second and you're immediately there.
So the sound itself is instantaneous.
Yeah, it's just taking the knobs a second or two.
So if you're on a gig and you step on a foot switch, it's going to be ready to go.
Yeah, nobody wants to wait for the sound to be called up.
And over here you've got a display window that seems to tell you some information about each sound as you switch from one to the next. What's going on there?
For instance, we happen to be right now on a preset called Vintage Stack. Underneath that, it's telling you Brit Post. What that means is the Cyber-Twin is very unique in that it allows you to take different kinds of tone control arrays, or we'll call it a tone stack. And an example of that would be a tweed tone stack, a blackface Fender tone stack, a British tone stack. So you can choose from those. And then post means that we're putting the tone controls post-distortion, after the distortion. Most people realize that tone controls before or after the distortion is a very different sound. The Cyber-Twin lets you get either of those. So this particular A33 means it's part of the amp collection presets. We're calling it Vintage Stack. This is some clues to how that's sound was developed.
Brit refers to the tone stack, is that right?
Exactly.
And the post?
Post is that the tone controls are post-distortion.
And on this particular preset, you've got no effects.
It's telling you right away no effects. When we were on that Twin before, let me see if I can find that for you here, Tom.
There it is.
Now when you look on your Twin reverb setting, it's telling you it's a blackface tone stack, pre-distortion, and amp tremolo is the primary effect that's on there.
All right, now the amp collection has 35 different sounds, classic amps, vintage amps, and modern amps. Why don't you take us through some of your favorites?
35 amps, it's obviously an amazing collection of things, or any style of music. And some of my favorites are, for example, the 68 Vibro Champ, as is one sitting right here.
Great.
Now, at first listen, you might think, oh, that's kind of simple. There's no effects. There's not a lot of bass on it, whatever. But you know what? You record with that sound, and the way that it sits in a track, when you've got cymbals up here and bass down here, and that Vibro Champ is sitting right in the middle, it's a useful sound, and it's a sound that a lot of people have used on recordings. Let's go to a couple other ones. Wide Panel Pro, bassman, a couple different bassmans. We actually listened to a 58 and a 59, which are a little different.
And you've got both of them in here, it looks like.
Exactly. So you see that sort of tubby bottom end that's on there that you're hearing? If you plug into a real 58 bassman with the original speakers, that's what you're going to hear. If I go over and change the bass control a little, it doesn't sound like I added low end on a graphic equalizer. It sounds like I turned the bass control on a bassman up. You'll notice this one says Brit for the tone stack. That's because a very famous British amplifier was copied off of the bassman.
I see. All right.
Okay, 59 bassman, which Fender has reissued. We reissued this 10 years ago. It's just a very versatile sound. Several deluxes in here, which are very compressed. The Tweed Deluxe. Blues guys, old Muddy Waters records and stuff had that kind of sound.
Okay, so the NP, that stands for narrow panel.
Narrow panel,
okay.
yeah.
1955, no effects. This is kind of giving you the basic outline of where this tone is coming from.
Exactly,
Right?
and like if a guy was gonna try to recreate some old like Muddy Waters stuff or something. And again, if I turn the gain control down on that.
So it's the same program. You can go into these, even though you've selected these from classic amps, modern as well as vintage. If I like it, but I want to change it a little bit, I can do that, and I can save my changes, and the amp will remember that. Is that right?
Absolutely. Let me give you an example. Let's go into a 65 Deluxe Reverb.
Okay.
And this one happens to have the reverb set up around 6. That's a lot of reverb.
Yeah, it's plenty.
I can certainly go over and just by hand turn my reverb knob down just like on a real 65 Deluxe.
Right. All right.
Okay, now say I like that.
Yeah.
Notice how the save button is flashing red. That just means that I've made a change, and that's alerting you that if you'd like to save it, you can. If I press save, it's just going to tell me that I can't save it in the amp collection. I need to save it as my own preset.
Okay.
So then I'd press save again, and I'd have my own
So the
version.
original is still there in the amp collection, just the way it comes from Fender.
Absolutely.
Okay. Now there are amps in the amp collection other than Fenders.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What else do we have in there?
Well, even though the most highly desirable amps in the world are mostly Fenders, obviously there are other brands of amplifiers out there.
Right.
Let's get to a couple of those.
Okay.
We've got Amp Liverpool.
Okay. Yes.
The Dirty 30, which would be a dirty version of the Liverpool amp. Okay, so these are some other what we would consider classic amps.
Okay.
Vintage stack, modern stack.
Let's take a look at this next group, the 85 sounds in a custom shop. Now we've already heard the first program here, Stadium Rock. Let's just see what comes up here. How about high voltage? What does that sound? Great. Let's see, here's a twin reverb. I'm going to skip that. Let's go to, we've heard Morning Light. Okay, Night Bob set. Great, all right. Let's see here. Retro Supreme. Okay, that's got the tremolo built into it.
Right, it's telling you right there, amp tremolo.
Now, if you wanted to use the foot switch, if you wanted to keep that sound and knock out the tremolo, the foot switch is always going to give you that function. Is that right? It's going to take out the effect?
Absolutely. I just step on that.
Okay, let's put it back in. I suppose we like this tremolo, but we want to speed it up a little bit. How could we do that? Is that easy to do?
Yeah, it's extremely easy to do. There's a couple of ways to do it. One is that you notice that there are these 3 smaller wheels down here.
Right.
And they are going to be sort of quick access to the effects part of a custom shop preset. So in this case, the dominant thing you're hearing is tremolo.
Right.
So if I turn this knob, it's the tremolo level.
Okay.
The second one is the tremolo rate. The third one is the tremolo depth.
Now, you didn't have to push any edit buttons or anything like that to activate these knobs. They're automatically activated as you go from program to program.
Exactly. In keeping with the go as deep as you like theme that you were talking about, it makes it very easy for a person who has this sound in mind or likes this sound and then wants to just tweak it a little bit. Just like if you had a couple of effects pedals on the floor and you wanted to maybe turn the rate up a little bit. This is giving you that. This one
Let's hear it. Let's hear how it sounds.
Turn this tremolo rate knob.
All right, so we're going to speed it up a little bit. Well, it's very smooth, I see, too. I notice you've got quite a bit of flexibility here.
And you notice there's no digital glitching in there. It's going right along with you. Again, this is so easy to just go a little deeper or a little deeper into programming.
If these are blinking, they're telling me these are ready to be adjusted if you want. If you want to change the rate of the tremolo in this case, or rotary or chorus or whatever it is, again, it automatically is setting itself up to adjust it. And then again, if this is blinking up here, it's saying if you want to save it, just push this button and it's saved.
That's correct.
Okay, let's do a couple others in the custom shops. Let's see. Okay, first Zepp. All right, see what that sounds like. Okay, Stolen Moment.
It's an extremely long reverb.
Yeah, Clips. Great. All right, Rhythm Blues. Do that again, and I'm going to crank up the gain here a little bit.
Okay.
If I like that basic sound, I can adjust the distortion just by cranking up the gain or backing it off a little bit. Again, I can save it if I want.
Absolutely.
And we've only gone through 9 programs. And how many are there altogether? 85?
85 custom shop, yes.
All right. Program here that's called Cosmic Slime, and I see it's got a touch wah. Once again, these buttons are going to help me adjust the parameters of that effect. Is that right?
Yeah, if you went out and bought a touch wah pedal, chances are the 2 or 3 buttons that would be on that pedal would be the ones that are represented here. So we don't have to scroll through any long involved menus if we don't want to. We can just turn the knobs.
And as you go from program to program, each particular program's most common controls are going to come along with it. In other words, they're already here. You don't have to tell the machine to give you that. It's going to come. All right, let's hear what it sounds like. Could we, if we adjust some of these parameters here?
Sure.
For example, go ahead. Why don't you play like maybe a rhythm kind of part and. So I was just adjusting the output level here, and I noticed that if I want to step through very, very precisely, I can do that one click at a time. But if I want to make an extreme adjustment, I can just sort of flick it and go all the way to the end of the adjustment parameters there.
The knob figures out that you
that you're in a hurry.
Fast, yeah.
Okay, and let's check a couple of these others here. We've got the output level. Let's see what else we have. Probably a tone control.
That's not so much an audible effect as it is being able to customize the sensitivity of the wah.
It's like matching your guitar.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's do the last one here, just on this effect here. If you'll play some more. Every element has been carefully selected. Every parameter meticulously adjusted to complement each other, not just for optimal sound, but also for depth and feel. So if you want to take the new Cyber-Twin right from the music store to the gig, that's great. Just plug it in, twiddle the knobs like you always do, and start ripping. Or if you want to tap into any of the 35 classic sounds in the amp collection or the 85 sounds in the custom shop, the Cyber-Twin makes it easy. All you do is push a button or turn a knob or step on a foot switch. Whatever's most convenient, you decide. If you want to pick your favorite sounds and group them all next to each other for even quicker recall on stage, it only takes a few seconds. There's even an onboard digital tuner, complete MIDI capabilities, and an extensive patch panel for hooking up easily in any stage or studio situation. So the Cyber-Twin is all about an endless variety of sounds and quick access to any of them. It's about convenience. It's about great tone. It's about fun. We're going to take a look at the Cyber-Twin's capabilities of adjusting some of the effects in here. Now we've got program 21 here in the custom shop, pink brick. It says tape echo. First of all, let's hear it, and then we might adjust this effect a little bit.
You hear that little squiggle at the end of the...
Yeah.
It's not just ding, ding, ding,
Right.
repeats.
Yeah.
The repeats get progressively more degenerated,
Yeah.
just like a real tape echo would.
Yeah. Okay. Now we've got our three basic knobs here that as soon as we change to this program, they're activated, and I take it they are going to affect tape echo and be the usual sorts of, just what we would expect if we had a tape echo device, for example.
In fact, why don't we go
Okay.
to, we actually have a custom shop preset here
Okay.
called Reel to
Reel
Reel,
to Reel.
which is
All right.
specifically for this purpose of getting
Okay.
a great tape echo.
All right.
And it's just pretty basic sound with lots of echo on
Okay.
it. So your regular quick value knobs here are going to give you the common parameters that you'd use
Okay.
on a delay unit or an
Output
echo
level.
unit. Output level of the echo,
Okay.
the echo time, and the feedback, which is the amount of repeats.
Okay, let's go back to echo time here. So this is
Okay.
telling me it's in milliseconds. So let's just try it here. Let's say we've got about 200. Okay, and I'm going to scoot this up here. Okay. All right. And on this parameter over here, we've got the amount of, is this a regeneration or
exactly.
feedback? Okay, let's hear some different settings.
Okay, like we went down to basically nothing.
All right. It's a real sharp.
Right, one repeat. Let's go up
Okay.
a little bit.
Okay.
So these are the, if you bought an analog delay pedal or an old tape echo, those would be basically the controls you'd have.
Right, now if you want to go deeper than the basic controls here, suppose we really want to get into this tape echo and start moving it around and very precisely adjusting all the parameters, how can we go deeper than what these three knobs can let us do?
Okay, well in our edit buttons over here, we've got one called FX, and
Okay.
if I hit that, first thing it's saying is what effect is turned on that particular custom shop preset.
Okay.
We happen to have tape echo on now,
Right.
but you have stereo echo, different digital delays, tremolo, all kinds of different effects in there.
Okay, so before when we were using these buttons, we were sticking with the tape echo that came with that program.
Right.
But now we're still in the program, except we can get an entirely different effect, and it changes the function of this wheel, which up until now we've been using to go from program to program, but now we're staying with a program but going from effect to effect. Is that right?
Exactly.
Having pushed the effect edit button.
Right. Keeping with
over
the
here.
custom shop idea that, okay, we've chosen a, whether it's a blackface amp or a tweed amp or a stack
Okay.
or whatever, then we're going to go
Right.
into our box full of effects devices and add
Okay.
them.
All right.
So again, big menu of different effects if you
Okay.
desire.
Let's mention some of them. Tape echo, what else do we have in there?
There's things like a ducking delay, which gives you less echo while you're playing, and then when you stop, the delay
Okay.
comes out. There's things in here like ping-ponging delay, mono and stereo, or effects none. If you
Okay.
decide some of your custom shop presets you want no
Right.
effects at all, no
Okay.
problem.
All
Let's
right.
go back to tape delay.
Yeah.
Tape echo, I should say,
Okay.
and hit the effects button again.
All right.
Now we're going to start to encounter a menu of what these three level knobs were, your echo
Okay.
out level, your time, and your
All right.
feedback.
Okay.
Keep going deeper though. Wow and flutter.
So you've just gone one level deeper into the amp here to a new level of precision adjustment.
Right. We
Okay.
really like the idea that the Cyber-Twin lets you go as deep as you like.
Mm-hmm.
If you just want to have fun, twiddle a few knobs, twiddle the big wheel to some different programs and go
Right.
no deeper,
Right.
you can be perfectly satisfied playing this amp for years.
So what's unique about the Cyber-Twin? It all comes down to two things. First, its unique shape-shifting technology, beyond modeling, that actually reorganizes its internal architecture, its signal path. Second, if you care about rich tone more than anything else, you don't have to give up a thing to get all that flexibility, that variety. Because this is not just a digital effects device with some amp models added on. The Cyber-Twin not only sounds like a real amp, but it responds and feels like a real amp because it is a real amp, first and foremost. and all Fender. It's a familiar amp with the usual controls. A serious amp, 130 watts, stereo, two 12-inch Celestion speakers. Revolutionary technology? Absolutely. Versatility? Yeah, astounding versatility. But even more impressive, there are no trade-offs, no compromises. You know, Fender's been making amplifiers for a long time. They built amps for 4 years before they ever built a guitar. The philosophy, every step of the way, innovate, don't emulate. At Fender, for 55 years now, it's always been about tone. It still is.